Today we'll be painting the Assumption of Mary. Her feast day is August 15th. To start, I think I'm going to paint the areas where we see the skin tones, the face, the hands, the bodies of the angels. So I'll be taking this skin tone color paint and just gently going through. And I can still see the eyes and the nose outlines, so that later, if I want, I can go over those. I know some people don't like to paint faces, and that's fine. And continuing with their hands. And if you don't want to start with this, that's fine, but I personally think it'll be easier for myself if I do this. Then when I'm painting the background, I'll see where the hands and the angels and the different features are, so I'm not painting over them. And again, I can faintly see the eyes and the mouth and the nose of the angel. And we're painting with acrylic paints today. So now we have her face, hands, the angels, and we can kind of see where we're going, I think. So I'm going to rinse my brush off in the water. Wipe it off on the towel that you have, and try not to get your canvas wet. If you do, just tap it with your paper towel. All right, I think next I'll go into her cloak. And I'm using this picture as a guide. So we have blue here, we have blue here, and there's lighter colors and then darker underneath if you want to do that. So I think I'll probably start with the lighter blue that I have here. And you can also put some white in there if you want to make it even lighter. And give your painting a little more definition. All right, so I'm going to start at the top because the top is lighter, the light's coming from the top, making certain areas brighter, and then underneath you'll have shadow areas, so that will be a darker blue. And I'm mixing some of the white like I did before. I kind of liked how that looked. Again, this is your painting, it's your preference. There's definitely a lot more detail in the original painting, and it's really up to you how much detail you want to do. Right now I'm keeping it simple. And then as I'm working, I'll decide how much detail I want to put in. And of course, be careful because some of this might be wet. So I'm really kind of following the general areas that are in the original painting. All right, now I'm just going to use the straight blue and blend it a little bit. Now I just went over the line there, but that's okay because I'm going to be using a darker color in there. And because we're using acrylic paints, you can always go back over the paint to fix any areas you want to. Just let the paint dry before you do that. Okay, I'm going to do this curve here in that color. See how that looks. Maybe do a little bit of the bottom. I'll just continue on this side. Now I have a darker blue. That's very dark. I'm going to wipe off some of that paint, go back into the lighter blue, and see what I can do here to blend. And I'm making these little wavy areas to show where her cloak is. It looks like it's waving in the wind, like there's a breeze. I'll continue with the dark paint down here. Painting in one direction will give you smoother lines. And underneath here, it's very dark. This is also in shadow. Now I'll go to the other side. I'll put in some medium color tones, because remember we mixed this blue with white for the lighter. So I'm getting some nice lines right there. I kind of like that. So it looks like in here there's a little area of dark. I think I'll just follow this line all the way down. And as you're painting, you'll notice where you want to have extra lines, where things are moving around in her cloak, and how you think it should look. And that's fine, because it is your painting. Maybe I'll do a little bit here. Don't be afraid to experiment with the colors, because it's only paint and you can paint right over it if you don't like what you see. And if you went over the lines too much and you don't like that, like say I went blue over here, let it dry and then use your white and put white over it to kind of conceal it. All right, now I'm going to go into the darker colors. This darker blue, and see what happens. Oops, and just see, like that, like that. Just kind of splattered some paint. That's okay, I'll fix it later. I'm kind of experimenting on that side. I'm not sure if I like that or not. But I think it looks pretty nice how it is. Maybe I'll go in here a little bit darker. So I think I want to put, I really should have rinsed off my brush, but I didn't. Put a little bit lighter in certain areas. And as I'm mixing the colors, I'm getting even another color in there, like a fourth kind of shade. And that's nice to have different colors like that. It kind of gives your painting depth. This time I am going to wipe off my brush a little bit. Get a little bit of the lighter blue. The more you mix, the more colors you'll have. Anytime you want to remove all the color from your brush, swish it around in the water. Be careful not to get it on your canvas. Mix it in the paint. Alright, I think that's good enough. Now I'm looking at these splotches. Okay, they look dry. So I will clean off my brush. Make sure it's dry. Take some of the white and go over those areas. And I'm making sure that the paint is flat on the canvas. I don't want any bumps. Very gently and with light, just very little bit amount of paint, I decided to make some side strokes. I thought that was interesting. As you can see, I've outlined Our Lady's belt and her collar in gold, and I've used bronze for shading in her outstretched arm, in her sleeve, in the bottom of her dress, and that'll give some nice depth to your painting and to her dress. Off, my brush is good, and go into another color. I'm now going to continue painting the clothing of the angels and the wings. I'll start with white. And I think while it's wet, I'm going to add a little bit of pink. You'll see some pink in the original drawing. And sometimes painting in the wet paint helps because then you can, it kind of blends together and it looks nice. And I'm getting these nice lines that I like. It makes it look like real clothing. Now I'll go on to the wings, and you'll see the wings actually have pink at the top. So I'll just continue with the pink that's on my brush. Rinse it off, dry it off, go back into the white. I'm even running my brush to make it look like there's lines, like feathers in the wings. Running my brush up and down. And maybe go into a tiny bit of the pink and bring that down into the feathers a little bit. And I'm painting over the lines, just to make them kind of fade a little bit. That's really up to you. All right. I think next I will go into the hair. And we'll do the hair on the angels and on Our Lady. I'm just going to use the plain brown for Our Lady's hair. Going in one direction with the paintbrush here. And I'm leaving a little bit of a line here so it looks like she has a part in her hair. All right, going into the angel's hair. Now their hair is a little bit lighter. So I think I'm actually going to use the bronze color. I can even add a little bit of white if I want. And be careful, this paint is probably still wet. And again, I'm painting over the lines a little bit just to make them disappear. All right, now I think I'm going to do the backgrounds. These are clouds. I'm going to wait on that, but I'm going to do the backgrounds. Down here I see it's light blue, gold, and gold usually represents heaven. And then it's darker over here, so maybe I'll do like the dark blue or even the black. All right, I think I'll start with the gold. And I'm going to bring it all the way around from here. And it's going on lightly, and I think I'm going to leave it like that. Later, if you want, you can go over it again to make it darker. I think we'll come down to about here. And continue on this side. go into the lighter blue, and I think I'm going to mix white in that and make it a little bit lighter. And I'll come right up against the edge of where I painted her robes. I'm going to try and blend this a little bit. I'll just use my finger. That way you don't just have a line of blue and a line of gold. Just put your finger in there and blend it in a little bit. Maybe bring the gold down some. Actually, if we put our finger in the gold, that's kind of nice. Takes out some of the lines. Maybe even use a paper towel, but then you might take up too much paint. Just very gently dab it. And maybe as I'm getting closer to the bottom, I'm adding in the darker blue. This is your own color choice at this point, however you want to do the sky. But I know I don't want to put the same colors next to the robes. That's nice. That gives us a nice feeling in the sky. And I think I'm going to go into the darker blue a little bit because I'm going to make this black, I think. All right, I'm going to rinse off my brush really quick, dry it off, go back into the lighter blue on this side. Just for a little bit. And remember, we're using acrylics, so you can patch up anything you paint over if you make a mistake or you don't like how something looks. See, now we're getting too close to that color. So I will go into the, I think the darker blue. That way you can tell where the robes are. And while this is still wet, I should really be using my paper towel, if that's what I want to do. It doesn't matter that the paper towel has other paint on it, as long as the other paint is dry. Maybe bring some over here. Continue with my blue. Go into the lighter blue a little bit. That turned out very interesting. I'm just dabbing this with the brush at this point. Wipe off my brush, do some more of that light blue in there. That has a very nice cloud effect. There's all different kinds of ways to give the illusion of what we're doing, making the sky look like the sky and like it has clouds. You can dab your brush like this. You can use the paper towel. That's always easy. Now I think I'm going to wipe off my brush and go into the black on this side. I think that could be very interesting and dramatic. All right, that's pretty dark, so clean my brush off good. And go into some of the lighter blue. Kind of mix the colors up. That makes a really interesting gray blue. Going back into the blue, use a little bit of black. At this point, you should be experimenting with your colors. There really is no right or wrong, and it's how you want your painting to look. So at this point, you're just going to decide what colors you would like these clouds to be. And this is totally your choice. I think for the top, I'm going to try some pink and silver and see what happens. So I'm just trying to go around her clothing. And I like to cover up these lines if I can. And I've seen some of you paint the lines black afterwards, which is very interesting. And I'm just really dabbing my brush in the pink and then in the gray, silver gray. More of the pink is coming out. This is your time to paint along the edges of the robe. Maybe clean up some of your lines. And there I had splattered a darker color, and as you can see, it's covering up. And at the end, I'll try and touch up these areas if I'm painting over her hair too much. And as I'm looking at this, I would like this line to disappear. That's my own personal preference. So I will wipe off my brush, rinse it out. I am going to mix some of the white and some of the gold and maybe a little bit of pink. And I kind of like how that looks. Maybe go into the cloud a little bit. Because I have pink here, I'm going to avoid using pink. So I think I am going to use, and please experiment with the colors. I'm going to use the bronze and gold and white and see what happens. Maybe that's a little too close to that color. And certainly you can go back and change things. And now as we're going in, and I'm dabbing my brush as I go. It's really up to you what you want to do. And of course we want this color to be lighter than the angel's hair, which it is. Put a little bit in here. And as I'm adding colors and mixing, sometimes the color changes a little bit. Here's a little bit darker, but that's good. It gives a little bit of just a little more dimension to your painting, I think. Carefully go around the hand, and at this point, if I don't like anything in the fingers, I can paint over it a little bit. Now, if you wanted to smooth that, you don't really have to do what I was doing with the brush. You can always swirl it. There's really so many different ways you can paint. Now as we're coming around with the color, everything's starting to show a little bit better. This cloud I'm swirling a little bit more than I did the top. I'm just really experimenting with the color and with my different brush strokes. And I want this color to bump up against and really maybe even go over a little bit the other colors that are next to it. Put a little bit in between this angel's legs. I'm going to take a little bit of the blues, the lighter blue and white, and mix that up. Maybe put a little in that color that we just used. That's a nice kind of brownish gray color. And go around the edges. You don't have to do this. Maybe take a look at what I did, and if you don't like it, don't do it. And then I will take just some of the lighter blue. Just swirl it around. No right or wrong. All right, this gives you a feel for really different ways you can use your paints. Different colors, don't be afraid to mix. Be creative. Now to finish up, I will do some details. I'll let everybody else decide how they want to finish their clouds and sky. Just rinse that off for a minute. All right, if you have a finer brush, this probably will work better. Just want to make sure it's clean. And I am going to use probably the brown, either brown or bronze, to do some of the features. And this is up to you. And I certainly don't want to put my arm in wet paint. So I would let all this dry before I attempted this. So I'll put in, I think the eyes might be easiest to start with. Little half circles. And then just a little circle coming down. And then eyebrows. Her mouth. And I'm just going to put 2 dots for nostrils, and maybe have very lightly, starting from the corner of the eye, bringing a line down for her nose. And then I'll do just a light line for the chin. And we used brown on her hair, so I will go back and shape this area. So that it looks like how I want. Maybe I'll have her eye come that way a little bit more. I can put a little bit of brown in there for her ear, inner ear. Shape her neck. Right. And I'm looking at the original painting for direction, but this is really up to you how you're going to do her face. It's impossible to get it to look like the original. Then I will go into the angels. And this angel, just a little half circle and a dot for the eyes, and maybe a half circle over the eye. I'm going to do one nostril for right now and just a little bit for the mouth. Maybe outline the face a little bit and go around the hairline if you feel like. And this is the point where if you want to outline, and I'm making a line on this side of the face for shadow, and I think that looked nice. Remember, if you do something and you don't like it, you can always change it with the paint. All right, and this other angel, I'll start with the eye first. A little bit of a half circle, and then a dot, a little bit of eyebrow, 2 dots, 2 very light dots for nostrils, the mouth, and I'll come around a little bit, outlining under the hair. I'm going to outline the hair on this side. Maybe make it a little bit darker on one side. Maybe I'll make a little line from the eye down towards the nose on this angel. Put a little belly button in this one. Lightly outline. I went a little heavier on that line than I wanted to, so I can fix that with paint if I decide. And if you want, you can continue outlining the fingers on Our Lady and the feet on the angels. At this point, it's up to you how you want to finish up your painting. As I'm looking at my own painting, to finish up, I used some black to outline around Our Lady's cape and or mantle, whatever you prefer to call, outlining the angels. I've decided that I'm going to put a halo around her head. If you want, you can. You don't have to. Here there's a little bit of gold that kind of gives the impression of a halo. So that's really a design choice for you. Now just take some gold and put it just around her head like this. And just fill in a little bit towards her hair. Like I said, this is totally a design choice if you would like to do this. And this is our painting of the Assumption of Mary.